McLaren and Red Bull have undergone a remarkable reform over the last couple of races, and suddenly Verstappen's hopes for a driver's championship have been revived. With a fresh approach brought in by a technically skilled team principal, there's renewed optimism for the remainder of 2025, and now all the cards seem to be on the table. But the big question is this: can Mekis truly lead Red Bull and Verstappen to a glorious comeback? And if so, what are his core beliefs about what could turn out to be the greatest championship battle in decades? What once seemed like a closed intra-team fight between McLaren drivers for the title has shifted dramatically in just 2 races. Even though Verstappen still faces a mountain to climb, sitting 69 points behind Piastri, the momentum is clearly on the side of the 4-time world champion after back-to-back victories in Monza and Baku. And the best part, both of those tracks were unusual challenges. Yet, while suiting the RB21 a little more than expected, the dominance they showed meant just one thing: the upgrades are finally working. A new floor at Monza and a new front wing at Baku paved the way for Verstappen's triumph. But now comes the real test: Singapore. This is a track that has never favored Red Bull, not even in their near-perfect 2023 season where they won 22 of 23 races, with the Marina Bay circuit being the only blemish on that record. Still, Mekis firmly believes that the RB21 can carry momentum into Singapore, and with Verstappen's current motivation, they could very well be in a position to fight for victory. If that happens, McLaren would have every reason to be afraid, because for the first time in a long while, Red Bull could be dominant on a high downforce circuit. Reflecting on the team's recent progress and what lies ahead in Singapore, Mekis explained, "I think we probably feel today that some of the good stuff we saw in Monza we also found in Baku. In Baku there are only slow-speed corners and it's very low downforce, yet the combination worked well for us. It's a completely different equation compared to Monza, and that's good news. It's quite easy to understand." Red Bull is thrilled that their car has been dominant on 2 completely different types of circuits, but translating that success to Singapore will be difficult. Even Mekis admitted that McLaren's true pace is hard to judge, especially since Norris was stuck in dirty air for nearly the entire Baku Grand Prix. Looking ahead, Mekis compared Singapore to Budapest, a circuit where Red Bull struggled. He noted, "In Singapore you shift the equation a bit. You keep the slow-speed corners but go to maximum downforce. We've struggled in Budapest and even before that. This is also a much hotter track and we know how sensitive we are to heat, but truthfully most of the field is." It's important to remember that Mekis had nothing to do with Red Bull's poor Budapest showing, since the team was still dealing with an internal power struggle that has since been swept under the rug for the sake of stability. And here's the real difference: a technically knowledgeable leader who listens to his drivers can transform a team into a race-winning force, and of course we must highlight the Verstappen factor. The 4-time world champion brings far more to the table than just driving talent. After winning the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, he has now turned his full focus towards Singapore, setting clear goals: 6 points more than Lando Norris and 10 more than Oscar Piastri. Anything beyond that is a bonus for Red Bull. And as Toto Wolff once said, one single DNF for Piastri could change the entire championship picture. While it might be optimistic to expect such a scenario, the intra-team McLaren battle remains a real and volatile factor. Now, what does Verstappen himself think about Singapore? His approach is cautious yet filled with determination. As he explained, "Singapore will depend on a lot of things. If the car is shocking to drive, then yes, it's really hard to keep it in a straight line. But if the car is nice to drive, then it's just about the physicality. If everything's going well, you can relax a bit more and naturally it's less physical. But still, it's always hot, you're sweating a lot, and you need to prepare." This is exactly why McLaren needs to manage their drivers carefully, because the so-called papaya rules won't hold up when you're facing a 4-time world champion leading a revitalized Red Bull team that finally understands what works and what doesn't. And let's not forget, Verstappen has handled this type of pressure before in 2021 and again in 2024. Neither Norris nor Piastri has ever faced a title battle of this intensity, and that's why this championship is far from over. McLaren boss Zak Brown knows it too. He admitted, "I think you've got to pay attention to Max, we've got to keep doing what we're doing. The constructors is looking good, we could have wrapped it up in Baku, but let's not talk about Baku. Hopefully we get it done in Singapore." But McLaren is no longer in the comfort zone of having both drivers battling for wins. Now with Verstappen in the mix, every fight between Norris and Piastri, even for P2, becomes far more intense. The points system makes that clear. The race winner earns 8 more points than second place, but just 3 more than third. That swing could drastically change their approach. For Norris, Finishing P2 ahead of Piastri at P3 simply won't be enough, as 3 points per race won't win a championship. And here's where Red Bull benefits: the fiercer this intra-team McLaren battle becomes, the higher the chances of a mistake or even a crash. We've seen it before with Mercedes in 2016 and again this year in Canada. Verstappen knows this, and now that he sees even the slightest chance of a legendary comeback, he will not back down. Andrea Stella too admitted you can never write Red Bull off. Red Bull might have unlocked performance, and I would not be surprised at all if they continue this streak. I do believe Verstappen can haul himself back into contention in the remainder of That's a firm yes, write it in capitals. He's Max Verstappen, 4-time world champion in a fast car. There are races where McLaren may not have any advantage at all. And that right there says it all. Red Bull is officially back in the fight, and this championship has just received the twist fans have been craving. Verstappen has the momentum, the support of the fanbase, and the confidence of his team. Whether that will be enough for a 5th consecutive title remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: if he pulls it off, he will cement himself as one of the greatest drivers this sport has ever witnessed. So with all this in mind, what do you think about the championship fight between Verstappen and the McLaren duo? More importantly, do you believe Mekis can guide Red Bull in this bold new direction when so many thought the Austrian squad was entering a rebuild phase? Let us know in the comments below, and once you've done that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now. But let's go even deeper into this battle, because the story unfolding here is more than just lap times and upgrades. It's about mentality, pressure, and experience. Verstappen has been in this position before. He knows what it means to claw back points, to go wheel to wheel with rivals who seem to have the upper hand, and to come out stronger on the other side. Piastri and Norris, as talented as they are, haven't faced the relentless psychological grind of a full-season title fight against a driver like Max. And that difference could play a bigger role than people expect. Think back to 2021 when Verstappen fought Hamilton all the way to the wire, or 2023 when Red Bull's dominance seemed untouchable. In both cases, Max proved he thrives under pressure. The more the odds are stacked against him, the more dangerous he becomes, and now, after the struggles earlier in the season, that same fire has been reignited. You can feel it in the way he talks about preparation, the way he pushes the RB21 to its limit, and the way he refuses to accept defeat even when the points table says otherwise. Meanwhile, McLaren faces a completely different kind of problem, managing two drivers who are both hungry, both fast, and both unwilling to give up ground. It's one thing to have 2 stars when you're comfortably leading the standings, but when Verstappen is lurking just behind, every intra-team fight becomes a risk. Every overtake attempt, every late break into a corner, could mean disaster, and if that disaster strikes, Red Bull will be ready to pounce. Let's also not forget the role of strategy. Red Bull under Mekis has been sharper, cleaner, and more responsive. The upgrades have shown immediate results, but so has the decision-making on the pit wall. Compare that to McLaren, where internal politics and pressure could start influencing race calls. Imagine Norris on fresher tires but behind Piastri. Do you swap them? Do you risk alienating your drivers? Or do you hold position and hope Verstappen doesn't sweep past both of them? These are the questions that will define the second half of And here's the fascinating part: Red Bull no longer has anything to lose. They were written off just a few months ago, and the expectation was a rebuild, not a title challenge. That means the pressure is entirely on McLaren. Piastri has the lead, Norris wants it badly, and Zak Brown knows how easily it can all slip away. Verstappen, on the other hand, is chasing history. He wants his 5th consecutive championship. He wants to silence every critic who thought Red Bull's dominance was over, and he has the momentum to do it. So now the stage is set for Singapore, a circuit that has haunted Red Bull in the past, a track that pushes both driver and car to their absolute limits, and a race that could either kill the comeback or fuel it into something legendary. If Verstappen wins here, the narrative changes overnight. Suddenly the impossible comeback doesn't just look possible, it looks inevitable. But if McLaren strikes back and manages to hold him off, they can reset the balance and remind everyone that this is still their championship to lose. And that's exactly what makes this season so thrilling. The margins are razor thin, the pressure is building, and the next race could shift the entire direction of the title fight. Verstappen versus Norris versus Piastri, Red Bull versus McLaren, experience versus youth, momentum versus control. No matter what happens, one thing is certain: Formula One has delivered us a championship fight that fans will be talking about for years.